When Super Saiyan Blue was initially released, it was a refreshing moment for Dragon Ball fans who were tired of seeing the anorexic stick figure that was called Super Saiyan God Goku. The idea to go into more of a traditional design where Goku actually has muscles, and going back to his original Super Saiyan hairstyle but just changing it blue was brilliant for marketing. I mean, just think about the impact that this would obviously have on kids, especially if you were like 10 years old. Like, you have a blue-haired version of Goku. It looks cool, and cool sells. But one other thing that this transformation did for Goku and Vegeta is that it effectively linked them together as a pair. Because even though Goku and Vegeta share many transformations in common, in Dragon Ball Z specifically, they were quite different for one simple reason. Goku always had Super Saiyan 3, and for whatever reason, even though Raging Blast broke the rules and gave Vegeta Super Saiyan 3 and even gave Broly Super Saiyan 3, Goku was always different from Vegeta because of that transformation. But by giving Vegeta the Super Saiyan Blue form, it kind of felt like he doesn't need Super Saiyan 3 anymore, and now he and Goku are effectively around the same strength once again, because as fans, for years, we could always just say, if Goku and Vegeta are equal, if Goku goes Super Saiyan 3, Goku's stronger, and Vegeta will never be able to catch up if you're looking at it from Z's perspective. Now, in GT's perspective, obviously the show wrote a way for Vegeta to attain Super Saiyan 4 using Bulma's Blutz machine, but that's another conversation for another day. The point is, Goku and Vegeta equalized effectively in theory by this transformation, which was clearly the main point of Resurrection of F in having these two Super Saiyan Blues fight against Golden Frieza. And we should also be grateful of the fact that they stopped using the worst title in the world to call this form Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, because if you wanted to have a more redundant name for a transformation, that is clearly the worst thing you could ever possibly do. And simplifying it to Super Saiyan Blue made it way better. But Dragon Ball Super had to call Dragon Ball Superhero Dragon Ball Super Superhero, which kind of gives PTSD of thinking about that original feeling of Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan. It's just something about repeating the word twice that close to each other that just seems weird. But either way, looking back on everything, we can say with absolute confirmation that Super Saiyan Blue was all flash and no fire. And the reason why this is true is because Super Saiyan Blue never broke through the cultural zeitgeist of Dragon Ball. But what do we mean by this specifically? Well, looking at the history of Super Saiyan Blue, the greatest thing it ever did was that it beat Frieza when he was off guard. So from a power scaling point of view, it wasn't even really strong enough to defeat Frieza, because when Frieza was fighting against Super Saiyan Blue Goku directly, he was actually beating him up until the point where he was running out of stamina, because Frieza doesn't have the fighting instincts to realize that that was the same exact mistake that he made against Goku when he was fighting him on Planet Namek. And even though Vegeta was about to get the kill, you know how writing is, they gotta always make Vegeta remember that he's only gonna be second place, and of course Goku stole the kill because he knew Frieza was going to destroy the Earth because he lived through it. But of course, Vegeta has to be killed in the process, making Vegeta the ultimate sacrificial lamb once again. But even if we look at some of the major fights involving Super Saiyan Blue, what did it do in the Universe 6 tournament? It looked cool when Goku pulled out that whole rocket popsicle Kaioken Blue transformation, and it was awesome seeing him fight against Hit, but ultimately it wasn't successful and Goku gave up the fight, so it's not like it really did much, it was just completely showing it off. It's like, hey guys, we can mix two colors together and just keep kids entertained, but in terms of what it actually does, it's not that effective here. And let's not even get started with Vegeta's performance as Super Saiyan Blue against Hit, as once again, Vegeta completely just got wrecked for Goku to put up a better fight than he did. But when we move on to the Zamasu arc, this was the perfect example of Super Saiyan Blue's usage, because Goku and Vegeta did not attain any new forms throughout this arc. They just kept coming back over and over again with Super Saiyan Blue, and guess what? At a certain point it started to get the edge, but when Zamasu fused with himself, that is where things went bad, but there was always the solution of, hey, we can just turn into Super Saiyan Blue Vegito. Well, Vegito Blue had no clue that the fusion was gonna just time out like that, because the story completely retconned the whole permanent fusion rule. And because of this, as always with how fusion works in Dragon Ball anime and manga, not counting movies because fusions can actually win in movies because it's self-contained, but when it comes to the actual manga and anime, they never win. And of course, we're talking about Blue Vegeto's dance partner, Blue Gogeta, who was effective in at least beating Broly up, because he technically didn't beat him because he was teleported away at the very last second because Sheila saved his life with the Dragon Balls. So overall, you can make an argument whether or not that was actually a win, but because you can say Broly was on the verge of dying, you can give them credit for at least beating Broly up, at least. Which goes to show that with all of the training that Goku and Vegeta had gone through at that point, they needed to fuse as Super Saiyan Blues at the peak of their powers just to beat a random guy that lived on a planet with bugs and had no real advanced training that they did. But when we move on to the Tournament of Power, we get the greatest example of illustrating how mundane the Super Saiyan Blue transformation is. Because Goku had already found a way to modify his Super Saiyan Blue by stacking it with Kaioken, and of course, Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku and even Super Saiyan Blue Goku did absolutely nothing against Jiren. But guess what? Vegeta learns a new variant of Super Saiyan Blue called Super Saiyan Blue Evolution. Guess what it does? Absolutely nothing. And it looks so ridiculously similar to how regular Super Saiyan Blue looks that it's basically the same exact transformation with just a slightly different hue of blue. Now, using my secret ability to read the minds of future commenters before they comment, several of you are going to mash your keyboards in defense of Blue Evolution Vegeta in his fight against Topo, or Top as they say in English. The sad news is that those of you who say this are being tricked by Dragon Ball, and I will explain this in just a second. Vegeta did manage to defeat the second strongest member of the Pride Troopers and a future god of destruction using a technique where he literally almost wiped himself out the same way that he did against Fat Boo. But we are missing the bigger picture here. Topo, more so than Vegeta, was limited in using his god of destruction abilities to its fullest extent because they are fighting in a tournament setting where he's not allowed to kill his opponent, and by accidentally killing Vegeta he would lose. That's why Belmod had to push Topo into fighting harder against Vegeta as Topo was trying to play by the rules. But you're still probably wondering how in the world is Dragon Ball manipulating you? It's a simple bread and circuses tactic used by the Romans to control the masses. In this specific case, they feed Vegeta fans all of the tasty appetizers in order to distract you from the fact that he never gets to eat the main course. In other words, against the prime threat, aka Jiren in the Tournament of Power, Vegeta did absolutely nothing but land a few blows. Is this really the best argument that you can make for Blue Evolution? Because in reality, Super Saiyan Blue Evolution is really just a sparklier version of Super Saiyan Blue, and if you want to give him credit for defeating Topo, pat yourself on the back, grab a cookie, and clap for the masses while you ignore the fact that Vegeta really never gets to do anything in Dragon Ball. Which leads to another major point. Super Saiyan Blue doesn't seem powerful. It's meant to be powerful, and for a while it was the ultimate form that Goku and Vegeta had, but let's just say this form has gotten passed around and fought against so many inferior characters that it just doesn't even feel that powerful overall. Going back to Resurrection of F, the best this form did was that it could last long enough to hold off a Frieza who only trained for a few months in order to fight against Goku and Vegeta. This form fought head-to-head with a Gohan who was out of shape. This form fought head-to-head with a Krillin who was out of shape. This form fought head-to-head with an Android 17 who we didn't even think could possibly be this powerful. And if you do even deeper power scaling analysis, you'll find out that Master Roshi is beyond Super Saiyan Blue level, especially in the manga. And while you can always go out and say, oh well, Super Saiyan Blue, Goku, and Vegeta scaled themselves down to their opponents, the problem is that this form doesn't really feel ultimate because there's so many characters that shouldn't be this strong that can fight against this transformation. And at a certain point in Dragon Ball Super, this transformation felt overused for all of the wrong reasons. As this form loses over and over and over again, and when it doesn't lose, it makes weaker characters look good against it. That is why the emergence of Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego was one of the greatest decisions that Dragon Ball ever made when it came to transformations. And the key reason why is because both of these forms perfectly complement not only the fighting style of Goku and Vegeta, but it also complements their personalities, instead of two fighters that are just using two blue-haired forms. Goku is training to become more like an angel, and Whis went deeper into this as he said Lord Beerus struggles to move his body without having to think as well. Which is also one of the awesome highlights for Goku, because the fact that a mortal that has lived such a significantly small fraction of Beerus's lifespan was able to attain something like this in itself is impressive all alone. And when we take a look at Ultra Ego, this form couldn't have been more perfect for Vegeta, as this form is essentially a Zenkai boost to the highest power, as it's connected to not only Vegeta taking pain, but also because of the fact that Vegeta's learning how to use destructive energy. And when you combine this with the fact that Beerus was training Vegeta in the manga to use destructive energy, and also, based off of Vegeta's personality, he would be a perfect god of destruction, and this was clearly hinted at earlier in Dragon Ball Super when he was fighting against Toppo, who was a god of destruction in training. This is really such a fitting path for Vegeta to go into. Which is why it's really been a bummer for fans to not see these forms get animated, because all of us would want to see Goku as Ultra Instinct and Vegeta as Ultra Ego fighting together, and seeing that direct contrast where they don't need to use the same forms anymore, they've learned their own things. And for the most part, Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego are very well received by fans, not only in their designs, but the fact that these forms have their own swag to it, where Ultra Instinct kind of has like this classic vibe, whereas Ultra Ego feels like an ultra uber aggressive kind of transformation, where Goku has a more advanced fighting style and Vegeta is more blunt and to the point. And this was hinted at even more too in the Moro arc, where even though Vegeta didn't have as much time to practice instant transmission as Goku did, you can clearly see that he wasn't a natural in learning something like that. And even though Vegeta did eventually learn it when he used it to get back to Earth, you can clearly see that instant transmission doesn't feel like a natural move for Vegeta to use. Now you can argue that's because of the fact that we've only seen Goku using it for so long that seeing somebody else doing it obviously feels weird, but in itself, these forms are truly the golden standard for modern Dragon Ball, and it's a great thing that Goku and Vegeta haven't truly perfected these forms, because in their imperfection we can still get a lot of tension throughout the series, because you can always just give them an enemy that will really challenge them and they have to learn these forms better in order to do it. And we see this illustrated with Goku specifically, where he no longer wants to use the mastered Ultra Instinct form because he himself said it's extremely difficult for him to be calm all the time. And in a lot of ways, Ultra Ego and Ultra Instinct really feel like customized forms that you learn as you're playing an RPG, and you branch your character into learning different transformations and skills in different paths. So ultimately, Super Saiyan Blue should no longer interest you. And this is because Goku and Vegeta found two new forms that have a better design, are more unique, are more fitting for the characters that are actually using them, and are also forms that they specifically trained to attain instead of just training in general and getting a different hair color swap on top of a form they already had. And by no means are we trying to say that feats are everything, because a lot of transformations in Dragon Ball don't have the greatest feats, where Super Saiyan 3 itself never really accomplished much either, as the most it did in the Buu arc was it fought off Fat Buu and Kid Buu, but didn't get the kill in either situation, even though Goku made it clear that theoretically he should have been able to defeat both Fat Buu and Kid Buu, but that's another conversation for another day. And the most that Super Saiyan 3 ever did was that it defeated Hirudegarn in Wrath of the Dragon, a movie. Which shows that for OG Super Saiyan transformations, Super Saiyan 1 and Super Saiyan 2 have the best feats, as one defeated Cell, and the other one defeated Frieza twice. Actually, technically 3 times, because if you're counting Future Goku, and then also Goku on Namek combined with Future Trunks, that's actually 3 times that a Super Saiyan actually defeated Frieza. In Dragon Ball Z, at least. And no, we're not counting Fusion Reborn, when Gohan one-shotted Frieza by becoming Saitama. And as far as Super Saiyan 4 is concerned, well, it did beat Baby with a lot of help. Now against other characters like Super 17, it didn't do anything, to the point where you could go back and watch the entire fight. Goku actually never hit him once, and the closest that Goku ever got to actually damaging him was when he grabbed onto him and attempted to blow himself up. Now against the Shadow Dragons, it did get a couple of kills on the dragons that people could care less about, but one dragon it did get a good kill on would have been Ice Shenron, who was one of the top 3 Shadow Dragons. And against Omega Shenron, the ultimate Super Saiyan 4 was about to win, but it suffered from the same disease that all fusions do. It timed out because it's taking place in the anime, and fusions are not allowed to win in the main story. They're only allowed to win in movies and self-contained content. Now to be fair, Ultra Instinct Goku wasn't successful in defeating Jiren, even though he got very close to doing so before his power ran out during the Tournament of Power. And of course, Ultra Ego Vegeta has no major feats, as the plot would never allow Vegeta to accomplish something so glorious. But Ultra Instinct did manage to defeat Moro, which in itself is an ultimate feat that really means nothing because only a fraction of fans actually followed the manga.